Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the third webinar in the new, RRS's Renew series of webinars. Before we get started with the content of the program, I want to go over a few technical details. You should be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. We have everybody muted for sound quality. And that's okay. If you have questions, we'd love to hear them. We'll have time for a moderated Q&A at the end of the session. But please use the questions part of your toolbar to ask any questions, and we'll tee them up for the speakers as we go through. And if you want to review this later or share with colleagues, we will have a recording of this session available after the webinar is ended. So this webinar series is an introduction to Renew, which is a new initiative that brings together industry groups and municipalities to implement collaborative programs to advance recycling. Municipalities hear a lot of negative news about recycling, things about market challenges, rising costs, things of that nature, but they don't always hear about the good news, that there are industry programs out there to help solve problems and build resilient recycling infrastructure. Today, we'll hear from 3 programs where industry members are providing leadership and solving problems that we address us all. And so we're looking forward to this conversation today. First, we'll hear about a green building products made from recycled cartons from Jan Raymond of ReWall. Then we'll hear about the American Chemistry Council's WRAP program to recycle film plastics, and lastly, the U.S. Business Council for Sustainable Development's Materials Marketplace, which will be presented both by Daniel and John Bradburn. And at the end, we'll get some questions and answers. As mentioned, this is the third webinar in this series. If you're interested in viewing the first 2, they are available on our website, renew-recycling.org, and you can view those webinars there. The first covered access to recycling for a variety of materials and programs that help improve access, and the second focused on business and institutional recycling programs, so those are available. In January, we'll be highlighting partnerships for leading practices, so stay tuned for the announcement of that webinar. Now I'd like to get started with our program for today. We'll start off with a presentation from Jan Raymond. Jan is an entrepreneur who has developed a non-toxic, durable building material made from recycled content. He is working with leaders across the globe to build circular economy solutions to serve as blueprints for the future. A real visionary with us today. So Jan, take it away.
Thank you, Risa. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Greetings from the chilly Des Moines, Iowa, also known as the capital of the beverage carton recycling. And I'm here to tell you about the circular economy success story, where we literally shredded the bad reputation of one of the former villains of the recycling world by turning into a positive disruptor of the building materials industry. So let's, if I may ask for the next slide, let's talk about the cartons themselves for a little bit. They are pretty cool, if you ask me. I mean, as old as a solution as they are, we consider these common milk and juice boxes to be the future of beverage packaging, even for products like wine and water, because they simply are the most practical and eco-friendly option available today. It's due to their product to weight ratio, it's the FSC certified fiber they're made of, and it's the shipping efficiencies. So when they ship flat, when they're empty, and they ship square when they're full. So on top of it all, they are now 100% recyclable, and with over 60% of the country having access to the carton collection, they're also commonly traded now on the secondary paper market as the grade 52. But of course, it wasn't always like that. As you can see on the next slide, I may ask, there has been a number of challenges that cartons have been known for. They used to be known as hard to recycle because of their composite nature. Of course, they're made from layers of LDPE, paper fiber, and sometimes aluminum. Even the paper itself could sometimes be the SPS, the bleached white fiber. Sometimes it's brown. Sometimes could be even a combination of the two as a duplex. So it can also come in many different types of waste. The post-industrial waste can come in rolls and wooden pallets, or even as flats and never folded cartons in corrugated boxes, which obviously makes it kind of hard to separate and then recycle. So this, for a long time, led to the lack of end markets, and which is obviously the biggest challenge for any recyclable. Without end markets, no one will sort. MRFs don't have any incentive to sort this commodity out of the waste stream. And sometimes we can see even now, recently, when end markets go away, obviously the quality is the first victim. Quality goes down, and then eventually sorting can completely disappear. So it's crucial to have healthy end markets for any recyclable out there. But what does it really take to develop one? I want to share with you a little bit from the entrepreneurial standpoint and this for-profit standpoint for companies like us, what it takes to get to the point where we can serve, in this case, the carton industry with a proper solution. So on the next slide, I kind of want to point out how I want everybody to keep in mind that if you're really serious about solving these problems, the solutions have to be scalable. They have to have a massive impact. They have to have a potential to solve 100% of the problem. And to do so, obviously, some either crazy or really smart people have to start getting together and start working on something that doesn't exist, and they have to start somewhere. So that research part, which is obviously very critical, it takes time, and I want to point out that there are several different components of the solution that you have to develop, really. It's not just the product itself, what are you going to make out of this commodity, but also how. What is the technology that you're going to use to make that product. And once you do arrive to a product, now we have something, like in our case, a board, you have to identify the applications for the board. So you need to find a new market for a new product. That takes a lot of time too. Once you finally do all that, you have to obtain all the necessary testing and certification. And if you did your homework, you hopefully have some customers waiting to try this new product because it has some interesting properties. Usually, if the product is just green, it doesn't always work, as we all know very well, that it's going to start flying off the shelves. In our case, when it comes to building materials, the construction industry is very conservative. So if the product doesn't perform, and if it's outrageously expensive, those would be things that would disqualify the solution from becoming successful. So hopefully, whatever product you have and the first sales you have, you get the market acceptance where your first customers become your steady customers, and then that gives you the foundation for scaling up. Now you can start thinking about, okay, how are we gonna make this on mass scale? What the equipment is gonna have to look like to do so. You gotta hire more people, open more location, stuff like that. Very common sense after that, but it takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and of course, the infrastructure, the collection of the commodity has to grow with you as well. So, really want to give a kudos and hats off to the efforts of the Carton Council. We would like to make sure the world understands how much effort this industry group put into building the infrastructure, building the momentum with the communities, with the MRFs, and with the end markets to get this this solution developed. And again, you cannot do it alone. It always takes a joint effort. And we believe that it should be all of the constituents of the loop, if you will, in our case, the carton loop, that are necessary to really succeed in this game. So a little bit specifically to about our solution on the next slide. So what we do, really, we take the beverage cartons and we actually upcycle them into healthy, high-performance building materials. So sounds pretty simple. Obviously, a lot of effort goes into that. Why upcycling? We're taking something that has certain value and we're giving it, we turn it into something that has even greater value, and we're really extending that life. And in our case, the building products are also 100% recyclable again. So hopefully, in our case, ReWall can extend the life of the cartons infinitely. When we go to the next slide, just want to quickly touch on our manufacturing process, which itself is very green, eco-friendly. We don't use any water, we don't use any glues or chemicals in making ReWall, which results in products that emit 0 VOCs. We're taking an FDA-approved food packaging and turning it into building materials, so they will be naturally very healthy, and the lowest carbon footprint of our products compared to traditional products is also something that we're very proud of. The cartons themselves, the composite nature of the cartons actually lends its properties to the finished products. So our products are all very durable. They are inherently moisture and mold resistant. Again, we are taking something that's designed to hold liquids for a long time. So obviously you're going to get a very moisture durable material on the back end. On the next slide, just to quickly touch on another problem that we're solving in the within the building industry. ReWall can really, with all these properties, can now offer for the first time a real alternative to the traditional building products. They're really full of known carcinogens. Every single building product, wherever you're sitting right now, if you look around, you're going to have either a lot of drywall or some OSB or some wood product or cement product around you, and all of them unfortunately contain some kind of known carcinogens. So again, that just shows you that just because we're doing something really cool with this product and we feel like it's a revolutionary recycling solution to the carton, we also on the back end offering something that's very unique and offer a lot of different values to the building industry, which allows us to really kind of close the loop. I'll talk about it a little bit later. Let me tell you quickly on what type of products we make on the next slide. We make exterior applications, so you imagine exterior sheathing, all those OSB, plywood boards that you see on the outside of the buildings, wall boards, either pre-finished or durable, abuse-resistant interior wall boards, and some of these specialty products for our OEM applications, such as sound insulating floor underlayment or roof coverboard, which actually became kind of the product for us to focus on and to roll out this recycling solution around the country based on the success of the roof coverboard. But all of our products outperform all the traditional products. They actually, we offer them at or below the price of the traditional products, so that's also very unique for a green solution. And that green story really comes as a bonus to our builders. Again, for the construction industry, we had to lead with performance, we had to lead with price. Hopefully there will be more and more customers who actually really not just talk about how much they care about green, but actually also base their purchasing decisions on the health and greenness of the building materials. To kind of show you how much of a success we had with the roof coverboard product on the next slide, there's just an example of a few different projects that we've we've been used in. Obviously, the Tesla Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada, would be probably the best known building out there. But you know, the Microsoft building in Texas, or 8 buildings by now. There are 8 different buildings at the Iowa State University campus. Again, we're very proud of those as well. But the roof cover board itself is a very successful product in this niche market, which is about 1 billion square feet. So it still provides enough room for us to grow exponentially and you know, really expand our footprint, not just the recycling footprint, but also our sales around the country where we really want to go. But let me get back to, you know, kind of closing the loop and the circular economy. I really want to invite everyone who's listening to me right now to start thinking about how they can play an active role in kind of closing the loop, whatever commodity, whatever recycled product we're talking about. I really want to see a lot more activity from everyone involved. And if you go to the next slide, and this is how we've been doing it, and we suggest to do even more of with closing, you know, the carton loop. We believe that all the carton makers, as well as the carton fillers, which are the brands, and carton sellers, or the retailers. So if you go to the next slide, you're going to see some examples of those companies. All of those should now have the opportunity to really become the champions of the circular economy. They can use a better performing product that's, you know, less expensive than what they've been using so far, and it's made out of their waste. You know, the product that they either, you know, make or fill or sell. And really, it's a very easy way for them to kind of participate and do your part in closing that loop. On the community side, on the next slide, when it comes to municipalities and counties and governments of any level, we really try to show how it can be done here in Iowa. We've been living this and doing this from day one since we set up in Des Moines. We've been working closely with the local DNR, which is in charge of the landfill diversion. They helped us with a small loan, and they also committed to using ReWall as a building material in all of their construction projects. Again, very easy switch given the properties and the price. Of course, the local Economic Development Association recognized the value to our local economy here, and helped us as well with small grants, and of course the support of the city of Des Moines itself, where they added cartons to the single stream program. You know, when we set up here, they went beyond that. They also committed to using ReWall in a very simple application, which is the board ups of vacant buildings, and they also offer a property tax exemption for recycling businesses. So again, just some examples for the local governments how else to attract and incentivize the end markets, the recycling, you know, the crucial part of the recycling industry, to come in and be available locally. Our success here in Iowa, and you know, with the again, working with the Carton Council and the whole industry, it's really propelling our expansion plans here on the next slide. Those are just some examples of the locations where we would like to see ReWall set up in the next 2 to 3 years. We believe that again, we're not just a green business, we are a real business, we're a for-profit business that makes sense, it creates jobs. It's attractive, obviously, from the landfill reduction standpoint, but creating jobs and offering this truly green construction option available, you know, locally in your neighborhood, together with attractive ROIs, that's really, I believe, again, provides a blueprint for how these things can be done for some other commodities out there. On the next slide, just quickly wrapping it up, really what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we can turn locally collected waste into locally distributed building materials. That's how, you know, the local circular economies are created. We envision all the schools and hospitals and the entire communities to be built from the very cartons that they use, and then we have this nice little award for you know, what we call this really a movement and a shift, and you know, we're calling it the revolution, which is applies to both the recycling industry as well as building. So that's all I have for you today. I'm happy to answer any of the questions, but thanks for giving me this opportunity to share this with you. And if you feel like it, please join the revolution.
Thank you so much, Jan. Before we transition to the next speaker, we did get a clarifying question for you. How does your material meet flammability standards? Is there anything you could speak to there?
Of course. I mean, in order to be commercially available, again, that's what we had to get done first, get all the testing and certification ready. The roofing, industrial roofing segment into which we're selling the most right now, there's a UL standard for flame spread, and our products are Class A, so the best possible class for flame spread. Again, fully tested and certified.
Great, thanks so much. So now we'll move on to Sherry Jackson. She's the director of the film recycling program in the plastics division at the American Chemistry Council, and she oversees their efforts to generate growth in the recycling of polyethylene film plastics. She leads programs and partnerships with key stakeholders that increase public awareness about the importance of recycling film packaging and engages a broad network of folks. So Sherry, are you ready to tell us about this program?
I am. Thank you, Risa. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to discuss our WRAP Recycling Action Program and how it's helping to increase not only film recycling, but to divert this material from the waste stream. Next slide, please. Listed here are some of the benefits for state and local governments to become engaged in WRAP. A few include increased landfill diversion, deterring unwanted film and MRFs, and supporting local jobs in the economy, just to name a few. Next slide, please. So why is it important that we recycle film? Well, the use of plastic film is widespread, and it is growing because of the numerous sustainability and performance benefits as listed here. However, plastic film does need effective end-of-life options, and film recycling provides us with a great opportunity. Next slide, please. So through our research, we've discovered that among the major barriers to increasing film recycling is lack of awareness about what film is recyclable and how to recycle it. Film is generally recycled through long-established store drop-off programs and generally not in curbside because traditional MRFs were not designed to handle film. Next slide, please. So to address these challenges, we created, we being the ACC Flexible Film Recycling Group, the WRAP Recycling Action Program. This is a national public awareness and outreach campaign to educate about recycling film primarily through retail drop-offs. Our goal is to double PE film recycling to 2 billion pounds by 2020. And WRAP works to do this by engaging stakeholders in public-private partnership to implement the most effective film recycling programs. Also, we provide our stakeholders with essential educational tools and tactics and technical assistance to engage more consumers and businesses in recycling film packaging. Next slide, please. Listed here are our current state, local, and retail partners. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the growing commitment among major brands and retailers to increasing film recycling by adopting the How to Recycle Film Store Drop-Off label on their packaging. This label was developed by Green Blue's Sustainable Packaging Coalition to help reduce consumer confusion. It enables industry to convey to consumers how to recycle a package after its use. FFRG works to support these companies in their commitment to film recycling through our WRAP program. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to review with you some of our more effective WRAP campaigns. A few years ago, we implemented a successful WRAP campaign in Vancouver, Washington, using lessons learned from our first WRAP campaign in the state of Wisconsin, which was our first WRAP partner. Our model Vancouver campaign, I should say our Vancouver campaign produced some impressive results as are listed here that now serves as a model for WRAP campaigns in other states and localities. Next slide, please. So we are currently working with the state of Connecticut to expand the effectiveness of WRAP. Listed here are some initial results from our ongoing campaigns there, which have been, and the state of Connecticut, I wanted to note, has been an outstanding supporter and champion of film recycling. Next slide, please. We are also working in the state of North Carolina on WRAP campaigns to increase film recycling and divert this material not only from landfills but waterways and beaches. We are currently compiling the results from our current public awareness campaign. It's in the coastal area of the state, and the initial results are very. We created some unique collateral for a coastal campaign that we are planning to leverage in campaigns elsewhere throughout the country. Next slide, please. Listed here is the sample of our communications tools that are available on our resource website, plasticfilmrecycling.org, to support our partners' outreach efforts. We are constantly working to enhance these tools and to make them even more effective using lessons learned from our ongoing WRAP campaigns. Next slide, please. Here are some of the tactics we've used to help to achieve success in our WRAP campaigns. So primarily we use our social media, we provide newsletter content and copy. We've developed web content and copy, and we've even developed special publications for communities to use in their outreach on film recycling. Next slide, please. So one of our newest tools that we've developed and are most proud of is our interactive WRAP roadmap. This is a step-by-step guide to help states, municipalities, and local recycling coordinators launch their own plastic film recycling campaigns by using the best practices from localities that have already implemented WRAP. We do provide some technical support and communications assistance in these campaigns, but the idea with this tool is to help to make these programs more turnkey and easier for states and localities to implement WRAP on their own. Next slide, please. So in closing, I just want to say that we have created WRAP tools and resources responding to the needs of state and localities for better information to help educate their residents about plastic film recycling and how to divert this material from the MRF and the waste streams. So we encourage you to use these resources and to become more involved in our WRAP efforts, and please feel free to reach out to me for more information about WRAP and community-specific programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. That was very informative. We'll move on now to a presentation from Daniel Keitzer and John Bradburn. They will be making a joint presentation about the U.S. Business Council for Sustainable Development's Materials Marketplace. Daniel is the operations director at the USBCSD, and he works with their members and partners, Fortune 100 companies, federal, state, and local government agencies, universities, nonprofits, and entrepreneurs. He works to implement the material marketplace in a number of locations, as well as other social entrepreneurship and other related programs. John Bradburn leads General Motors Landfill-Free Initiative, and John works with a number of stakeholder groups to advance the circular economy. He's championed the development of the materials marketplace with the U.S. Business Council for Sustainable Development, and he helped launch the Reuse Opportunity Collaboratory in Detroit that brings together institutions, businesses, artists, and entrepreneurs to develop zero waste partnerships. So with that, I'll hand it over to Daniel and John.
Great, thanks. So if you want to bump into the next slide here. First, again, thanks for the opportunity for letting us talk today and tell you a little more about our work. I think this topic of industry problem solving is really at the foundation of what we're trying to do here through the materials marketplace and other kind of programming that we're working on in this space. So quickly, I'm going to run through these and give you a little overview of what the materials marketplace is, look at a few of our different projects that we have going on around the US, and then pass it over to John to really get into the specifics on what he's been doing on this industry problem solving piece. So what is the materials marketplace? So from a broad level, kind of on the surface, it's a platform for businesses to connect and find highest and best use solutions for their waste and byproduct materials. It's a collaboration tool. Diversity in all of this is very key. We're trying to work with lots of different industries from lots of different areas to help come together to develop these solutions that ultimately support our collective shift to a closed loop economy. Next slide, please. So how it works, we've designed an online platform that really brings it all together and lets us kind of do what we're trying to do here. So the platform lets participating businesses and organizations easily upload details on what materials they might have available or might be producing in their operations. It allows others to browse those materials easily and really find exactly what they're looking for if they have an idea of what sort of inputs their operations can use. It lets our project team and our materials experts on the back end also go through and actively push out recommendations when we do know that there's matches between different industries and different companies. And then finally, it allows, once we do identify those matches, it allows for that transaction and all the communications to take place right there on the platform in a very organized and controlled and supportive fashion. If you go to the next slide, we've rolled this out in a few different areas at a few different scales. In all of it and everything that we've done, public partnership has been very key, whether that's partnership with municipalities, partnerships with states. As I go through the next couple of slides, you'll kind of see each of those kind of key public partners called out. But zooming in first here in Austin, this was our first project that we launched back in 2014 on the New Materials Marketplace platform. Since then, we've brought on almost 250 businesses and organizations. We've facilitated over 300 transactions. Those transactions, the metric that I really like to focus on, have created over $350,000 in disposal savings or value creation on the other side. And so this project, with what may have started out with the intention of diverting hard to divert materials from the landfill, has really turned into a very powerful economic driver for the city of Austin. We've won a couple of awards to that effect too from the International Economic Development Council, which is really awesome to kind of see and to see that recognition at that level. But overall, just a lot of really interesting activity that I don't think we would have seen otherwise without this program in place. Next slide, please. The success that we saw at the city level really got us kind of looking bigger and asking the question with regards to the scale of just how big can you go on this platform from a geographic perspective to really see success still working. I think in the last couple of years, for sure, we've kind of seen that sweet spot really settle out at the state level. Some new partnerships have come into place, one with ECOS, the Environmental Council of the States. We've had a lot of really great engagement from state environmental agencies, and we've begun really kind of taking off with these state level projects. The first one we launched back in April of 2017 was in partnership with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. In just since April, that project has taken off and has grown like crazy. We have 444 companies participating as of this month. We've got over 100 unique material listings. There's a lot of different transactions and a lot of really exciting conversations in the works. And you can see some of the notable participants there that are really participating and active in this program right alongside small and medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, public agencies. So it's a really fascinating mix of folks. If you want to bump to the next slide. Similar model also was launched in Tennessee in partnership with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. We launched that one in August, so just a few months ago. We're up to 51 companies, over 70 materials listings, and then 30 or so transactions that are being facilitated right now on the platform. The industry makeup in Tennessee has also been very interesting to work with. You'll see in the kind of list of participants, a lot of the automotive industry is very well represented, along with their supply chains. And so we're expecting this project to really take off and blossom as well. But again, as I said in the beginning, at the heart of this, it's really the kind of diversity and the network that makes all this work and lets us uncover opportunities that I don't think folks would traditionally go to in their heads. If you want to go to the next slide. Speaking to the kind of city and municipality level, this is one specific example of some of the work we've done on the economic development side around this. So the reverse pitch competition is something we've been running with the city of Austin for a couple of years now. And it's helped launch a handful of really interesting businesses that are using consistently generated high volume, previously known as waste materials, from businesses here in Austin to create new businesses. The third year of this competition is starting in January. If you go to reversepitch.org, you can get a little more information on that. But I think this is just one small case study that really highlights the potential of innovation when looking at materials through this program that we're doing and through the kind of lens of materials innovation. Next slide, please. But at this point, I'd like to pass things off to John Bradburn, who for us has really been a major inspiration when you talk about industry innovation with materials and what companies can do to really drive circular economy forward in their operations. John, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Risa. Thanks, everybody, for being on this important subject, really. Key and pertinent in today's times, as the world economies grow and utilization of materials and resources increase. These sort of things are not only necessary, they're really mandatory. How do we create a system as compared to a few people talking? That's always important. Relationships are key here, regardless of whether you have a system or just a purchasing list as an example. What if you had a purchasing list, in fact, that had 100 potential buyers on it? It could scale that to 100,000, or how about 100 million potential buyers or receivers or processors. Well, that's what this is about. It's about bringing all these various materials around the world, trying to keep them as close to home as possible, though, and do good with them, keep them in their use phase. That's why I was excited to see this and helping it along. But obviously what it's going to take is a lot of people working together, as Daniel gave some of those. But let's dig a little deeper here. Let's talk about examples, because when you look at a big company like GM or small companies, it's about innovating. That's an easy thing to say, isn't it? But what does it really mean? I think when it comes to this sort of thing, is an entity worth, is a commodity worth a little bit more if you did a little something with it, if you could process it a little bit more? Because the low-hanging fruit, for instance, for us at GM is pretty much gone. We have 152, at the end of last year, we had 152 landfill-free operations, zero waste. Now it's time to dig deep and increase that to aspire to be a zero-waste company, totally, 100%, and do so in a way that moves materials up the hierarchy. Zero-waste landfill-free is only a benchmark. It's a point to reach. It's something everybody can relate to, and it's very important and significant, so it's good. But what's great is when you can move that material up the hierarchy. So let's dig here and talk to a few examples. So if you could go to the next slide, please. All right, so what you're seeing here is window cutouts. So when we blank, roll, coil, stock, and go through the many millions of pounds of material, we deal in about 2.5 million metric tons of materials a year that we actually recycle and reuse. So that's only our byproduct, let alone what we purchase. So we're talking about a lot of material. And this is a window cutout that's typically, if somebody was going to just recycle it like we've done, you'd send it down a scrap chute and we'd melt it. But what if we took it and side stacked it like you're seeing here and did what's on the next slide? If you would, please pass that. There's our window cutouts. Now this is a demonstration working with the Texas A&M, their School of Architecture. We sponsored a competition. This is the design they came up with, those same window cutouts. And there's been many more designs, and we continue to work with them. We shipped them a truckload of metal a few months ago, and now they're building prototypes and design options. This is the direction circular economy needs to go. As this example would show, recycling, sending material down a scrap chute, it's going to meet a zero waste goal, but is it the best you can do? Could we maybe sell that material and get a little higher value out of it? Could the buyer buy it for a little less value and run it through the marketplace so that the audience and the potential users, the inputs and the outputs are, again, scaled into the multi-millions? So that's what that one's about. And we've made other materials too from that very metal, HVAC, ductwork, and that sort of thing. So we did a demonstration in the Ohio River out of Cincinnati. We said, well, let's do some challenging materials. And we brought together the Ohio EPA, Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation, the U.S. Business Council for Sustainable Development, Living Lands and Waters, Chad Pregracky's wonderful operation on the rivers. And we collected materials. We collected 2.5 tons in 2 hours, just from the river's edge. Filled 2 or 3 boats of all sorts of various materials. We brought them onto the barge and we separated them out to about 6 or 7 different streams. And we did a zero waste event to demonstrate that if you can take material out of one of America's largest rivers, and that's been there a while, no doubt, and move that material into various recycle and reuse streams, you can pretty much do it anywhere. So this was a collaboration. Again, we plugged those materials in the marketplace, and we found outlets for them, some of which were there, some of which were found later, and went into all sorts of applications from all the various materials that you find that is available. These are treasures yet to be found in many cases. So people bringing their minds together to find these solutions, I thought was a really good experience. You can tell they had a great time. It was a blast. If you would, next slide, please. Do Your Part project. It's named such because it is about, this is what we're talking about, what we're all on this line for, is about everybody pitching in. And again, seeking out that which we aspire to do. So what if we took what's quickly becoming the symbol of waste, not just in our country, but worldwide, I believe, and that's these water bottles. They're everywhere. They provide convenience. So what if we, if we're not going to generate them, did some good with them, and then earmarked and set up what I call a supply web, not a chain, a web. Webs are much more resilient. Webs go in many more directions. Webs are more difficult to break. Chains break if you break one link. In this case, we set up many companies to process water bottles collected from many of our plants, many of our zero waste plants, and the city of Flint into 3 targeted materials. The one you're seeing here is in Detroit, wonderful group in Detroit headed by Veronica Scott called the Empowerment Plan, where formerly homeless women make coats, and we were helping and continue to help with the insulation for those coats, and we're currently in the 3rd design phase of that very insulation made from water bottles from those locations I mentioned. But all the processing, all the various companies involved create jobs, grow the economy, and in this case, help people learn job skills. We're also making filters, air filters in the city of Flint from the city of Flint water bottles. Those filters are made as part of a jobs and development training program, and they're in at least 5 GM operations now, pre and post abatement filters. And then we also made the 6-cylinder Chevy Equinox insulator, which went over the top of the engine, the manifold cover they call it. It's a big plastic piece on top of the engines. But again, all the various steps to do this were planned and executed by the entire team of companies that made this happen. So this is an example of not just sending material to a recycler and having it go overseas or experiencing some of the challenges we are going to and are now today in regards to some of those export issues. But let's keep these materials at home, create some jobs, and grow the economy. Okay, so that, if we could, maybe go to the next slide. Okay, small one, but I think interesting in that when a company aspires to zero waste or keeping other social or sustainability attributes at play, working within materials, sometimes you got to look at odd options and do a little work to help make them happen. In this case, we're at University of Texas Arlington's Art School, and these are students sitting on granite. That granite came from our Arlington assembly plant. It was used as a measurement table base, a base that is so stable we can do some very precise and accurate measurement for quality control of building vehicles. That material was no longer needed in the plant, so the question became, what do we do with it? The solution became, let's send it over to the school, let the art students sculpt with it, and again, not a big volume thing, but yet, I think these are examples of how we can hit many impact factors and help at many areas of need or areas of concern, areas of improvement. But you got to look at your risks, obviously, and we have a beneficial use committee that looks at those various risk factors before we do these sort of things as well. Okay? I'm not sure if we got another slide in that. I think that's it then, yep.
All right, thank you so much, John and Daniel. For those in the audience, we have a few questions in, but we can probably handle a couple more, so please put those in as they come to mind. The first question I have is for Jan. This person is in Denver and reporting that they are uneasy about the information they're getting from their MRF, that prices have dropped very low for cartons and that they're having trouble marketing cartons. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think that cartons were affected, just like many other recyclables, by the recent changes in the Asian markets, and a lot of the end markets kind of disappeared with the Chinese national programs. I decided not to buy. Obviously, there's a little bit of a void right now that ReWall is doing everything we can to fill, hence the plans for our expansion. But I can understand that you know, there's a big surplus of cartons at the moment, but I know that there are some other paper mills coming on board, and the end market, and not just ReWall, but some other members of the end market are, I believe, will be there. Our goal, speaking for ReWall, our goal is to offer long-term contracts to all of these MRFs that collect cartons as soon as we can set up our facilities in their neighborhoods. Our plan is to be available locally, so the decentralized expansion is something that we're working on for the next couple of years. But yeah, I know it's troubling. I would encourage everyone to give us a few more months and to convince you that the end market for the cartons is not as weak as it seems, and it's actually going to only grow. But I understand the concerns. I'm always happy to connect directly and see if we can help with you know, with that particular need, and if we can take it ourselves here in Des Moines.
Great, thank you, Jan. Sherry, we have a couple of questions related to markets for flexible films. One listener is just asking generally how are the scrap markets for flexible films these days, and another has asked whether you can speak to the impact of the pending construction of new ethylene plants in the Midwest, and how those might impact markets for polyethylene film moving forward. So can you speak to both of those questions?
Sure. The first question about markets, we too, with the restrictions coming from China on plastic scrap, will be challenged because we did have a good deal of material going export. But there are still other export markets that will accept quality film. That's one of the reasons why programs such as WRAP become even more important, because what we help to do is to generate quality film to not only support the current U.S. markets, but domestic, overseas markets as well. But we're also working in partnership with some allied groups such as APR. Many of you may be aware of their Demand Champions program, so we're looking to incorporate film champions within that program, in addition to NAPCOR, the trade associations of associations that are looking at in-market issues for plastics, film being, PCR film being among them. So again, this is a journey, and we are working very vigorously to not only help identify new end markets, but really take advantage of opportunities to put PCR in some current opportunities that are available while we look for more long-term solutions. I'm sorry, the second question again was about
the ethylene capacity, virgin ethylene capacity that's coming on in the Midwest, how you expect that to affect markets moving forward.
It does, because it's a pricing issue. One of the appealing issues around using PCR traditionally had been because it was lower in cost, compared to resin cost. But we're looking to work with folks to understand that it has to be more than a pricing issue. While we understand that is one of the key drivers for using PCR, we're looking to work with partners to identify other important drivers beyond. We just work with, again, a group of associations to fund an in-market demand study around the use of PCR film and other plastics. So we're looking from the learnings from that study, to identify drivers beyond monetary drivers that will encourage companies to use PCR film. So we're in the infancy with that, but we are looking at those options, understanding because of the pricing issues, we have to have incentive beyond pricing to encourage the use of PCR.
Great, thank you. Next question, which I think is for John, about the water bottles to insulation project, and this person's asking whether it would have been a better use to turn bottles into bottles. Can you make insulation from a less easily recyclable plastic instead? And can you give some examples? Sorry, not quite done yet. Can you give some examples of what materials were collected out of the Ohio River and what they were turned into?
Okay, that's quite a few here. I'm gonna see if I can remember them all.
Yeah.
You definitely can make insulation out of the materials. It's being done today. You know, you see it in the big box stores and lumber yards and that sort of thing. They're shredding fabrics, textiles, paper, cellulose, fiberglass, all those various things, and they all have attributes. They all have detriments. We used actually some vehicle parts this year, which is a manifold insulator that was not part of those water bottles to insulate some homes in Detroit and or some community centers in Detroit and Flint. Could you do something different with those water bottles out of Flint other than make insulation? Sure, and you can make bottles, and that's happening as well. You know, we didn't use all the bottles out of Flint. I mean, those are in tens, hundreds of millions of numbers. Just an amazing amount. I don't have the accurate amount, at hand now, but just a tremendous amount. We're using many, but they're going into all various commodities that do include other water bottles. Now, I'll get into an example and tie both those things together. The Ohio River, 80%, give or take, 80% of the water plastic that we collected in the Ohio River were water bottles. And we had a partner there. There was another sponsor that helped make that opportunity happen there. And they were actually a water bottle manufacturer and processor. So what we did is we delivered those. I hand delivered them in my truck to the location where they were processed into new bottles. So yeah, you can do that. We did it. And that was out of those challenging materials out of the Ohio River. Foam, polystyrene, a lot of it, made artificial rocks. Aerosols, Veolia, picked them up, processed those. Let's see, what else? Mixed plastics, Covanta, picked some of those up, moved those out into the energy option. Those were mixed, extremely mixed, which include thermosets, that sort of thing. Just a couple of computer-related, IT-related materials. Veolia took care of those for us and processed them in their system. Let's see, what else? Rope,
60 or
barge
so
rope.
feet of barge line, yep.
Yeah, the barge rope. That was an amazing one there, where that became kind of an artistic kind of thing, brought up to the Great Lakes and used for some various marine applications. I thought the polystyrene rock one was really cool. Got some making new artificial rock out of that. It's an open cell foam, so it's interior application only. But so it really was a mishmash of opportunities and options that made it zero waste.
Great, thank you. We have just a couple more questions, so I'm going to keep going here in the hopes that folks can stay on for a couple more minutes. So the next question is for Jan. Do you have consumer or residential products, and are they less expensive than virgin?
Yes. When you look at the portfolio, you can go to our website, rewallmaterials.com, and you'll see we do, like I said, exterior sheathing. So we're replacing OSB and plywood for residential construction. We also have interior wallboard that is more high performance. It's moisture, mold, and abuse resistant. So you wouldn't replace your traditional drywall unless you really want it. But it is more affordable than the comparable product. So right now, because of the hurricanes, even OSB would be much more expensive than ReWall for your exterior applications. Drywall, I'm not sure about the basic, the lowest drywall price-wise, so I don't think we can beat those, but we can definitely outperform them. So for especially drywall applications in the interiors, we would definitely be a good alternative. We also invite everyone to look at the what we call the naked board, which is a product that doesn't have a facing material, so you can actually see the recycled content, and that serves as a pre-finished interior wallboard. It would be probably a very good alternative for like garage liners or some accent walls in residential construction.
Great, thanks, Jan. And the last question is for Sherry. There's a ton of film out there. Is there a simple message to reduce contamination, or does the campaign have a comprehensive yes/no for those enthusiastic recyclers?
The simple message is to return that film to retail drop-offs, clean and dry. That is the best way currently to capture the film for recycling. Do not put it in your curbside collection. It generally contaminates that stream. Return it to retail drop-offs, clean and dry.
And Sherry, if I remember correctly, you guys have a great graphic poster that's available on your website that shows all of the different kinds of film that are compatible with the retail collection. Yes. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, it's the poster that generally I would go in a retail collection bin at the front of the store. We want to move away from numbers because they confuse a lot of people, and move to the images that are compatible with that long-established recycling infrastructure for bags to depict all the various types of film packaging that can be recycled along with bags in store drop-off bins.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for listening in and for sticking with us to the end. We really appreciate your time. Please join us again in January when we talk about best practices and partnerships to get us there. And please enjoy your holiday season and have a great month. Thank you.
Thank you.